The White Scars strike as a storm of blades, falling upon their foes with unmatched speed and ferocity. Like a spear hurled from a hunter's hand, they punch through the enemy's defences to pierce their heart and bring them crashing to the ground. In this video, we'll be showing you how to paint a Space Marine Terminator in the colours of the furious White Scars. We'll be painting efficiently, so you'll be able to get your Terminators ready to defend the Imperium on the battlefield in no time at all. By following this guide, you can easily transfer the techniques shown to any of the White Scars in your collection. You'll have a whole army ready before you know it. If you're new to painting, you can check out the Citadel Colour Painting Essentials videos to learn all about paints and techniques. The paints we've used are on the screen right now. These are the colours of the White Scars, but remember, you can paint your miniatures however you like. Also on the screen now is an additional equipment that we've used. So if you haven't got mediums at home, you can use water instead. And feel free to use whatever brushes you're most comfortable with. The first thing we need to do is undercoat the miniature, and for this we've chosen to use grey cere, as the majority of the model is in white armour, and we can give it a slightly grey undertone. We'll start by applying Corax White to the armour. We want to leave any recesses in the undercoat colour, so we'll use a small base brush so we can get into the harder to reach places while still having control. We'll only need a couple of thin coats to get a solid finish over the grey cere undercoat. And if you do get any of this colour into those recesses, we can always add some grey cere back into those lines, and we'll be using a small layer brush for that. If we make any mistakes throughout this painting guide, we'll tidy up all of the armour with this colour. Next, to get those armour recesses a little bit more dirty, whilst keeping those plates nice and clean, we'll thin down 1 part Talon Sand with 2 parts Lamy Medium. This gives the armour a rugged tone, as they would have been fighting for years with no rest. By using a small layer brush and a small amount of paint, we can get in between those plates, and don't feel like you have to colour every recess. By picking out some of the areas over others, it will give more of a natural look, and don't worry if you get any on the plates, we can just tidy up with our previous steps. When that dirty shading is dry, we'll move on by adding some lead belcher to the metal details, such as the bolter, relics, targeting array, helmet and the back venting. Just a couple of thin coats will cover over the white undercoat easily, and if you do get any of this colour onto the white armour, just let it dry and cover over the last steps. We don't want to smudge it by trying to wipe it off, as this will just leave a metallic shimmer over the whole area. Now it's time to change our paint water, as we don't want any metallic flakes into our next colours. Next, we'll apply Mechanicus Standard Grade to the undersuit and the Crux Terminatus. We'll just thin it down and apply it just like we did with the lead belcher. We're using this colour for these details as we don't want them to be too dark or too light, contrasting or losing itself amongst that bright white armour. We'll be applying a shade over this later to give it some depth, so don't worry if it looks a bit too flat now. Now we'll use Mephiston Red for the chest eagle, lenses, wax seals and the left knee pad. We want to be careful if we can here, as we have a lot of colours already applied, and red paint can stain the white armour really easily, so use a smaller brush and take your time. If you find the paint water is super saturated after you're cleaning your brushes, just give it a quick water change. Once that red is dry, we'll move on to Rakarth Flesh for the parchment of the purity seals. Just a couple of coats will give a really solid cover over the white, and remember to paint the back of the parchment too if it's visible. Rakarth Flesh is really good for an aged parchment that will still stand out from that very bright white armour. Then to finish off the base coats, we'll add Corvus Black to the gun casing. We'll be using a smaller brush here so we can avoid smudging over the top of the lead belcher body. Just 2 to 3 thin coats will fully cover over the silver. After the base coats have fully dried, we'll shade over all our details, but just not the white armour. Just take your time when using this colour, as we don't want any staining on that white armour. So use a small layer brush, and this will be best to get all those details covered. We only want a small light coverage, so add it in small amounts and keep an eye on it as it dries. And finally, we can highlight the armour with white scar. Just make sure you thin your paint, roll the brush on the palette to get a nice point on those bristles. By following these steps, we can highlight as sharp as we can, and you can use a combination of the tip of the brush and the side of the brush, especially for those edges of armour. This will save you lots of time and give you a neater finish. And you only need to highlight the most prominent and visible edges too. Don't highlight what you can't see. And there we are! Your White Scars Terminator is now complete, ready to defend the honour of the Warhawk with thunderous bolter fire. You can now go and base your model and apply any relevant transfers. We've used the Grelin Badlands to base our miniature, and if you'd like to learn more about technical paints, we got a video all about them. For more tutorials, tips and tricks, check out citadelcolor.com or head to your local Warhammer store where our amazing staff will be happy to help you. Well, we hope you enjoyed this video and we'll see you next time. Bye bye!